in this part of the tutorial we are going to add some collectibles to our game. And the collectibles that I'm going to add are coins, and as you can see here in the top left corner there is an indicator that shows you how many coins you have collected at the current time. These coins can be placed around in the game world, but the thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to add them to my enemy. So whenever we kill an enemy, the enemy will drop a coin so that we can pick it up and collect it. So let's see here, if we kill her, then you'll see when she dies a coin will spawn and we can pick it up, and then we will gain 1 coin here, as you can see. So these are some kind of points that we can collect from the different enemies. Right now it's spawning kind of high in the air, but you can always switch it around and place it closer to the enemy, so it looks better than just dropping from the sky when the enemy dies, as you can see here. Yes, so that's basically what we are going to do in this video. We are going to add collectibles to our enemies so that we can pick them up when she dies, and we are going to add this UI element up here so that we can keep track of how many coins that we have collected at the current time. Before we start coding, we will have to add the sprites to the project, and I'm going to be using this coin sprite here, and you can find the coin sprite by going to the link in the description below or by clicking the link on the screen right now. I am simply going to create a new folder in my sprites folder and call it coin, and then I'm going to take all my sprites from off screen and drag them into this coin folder here so that all of them have been added here. And then you need to remember to select all of them and make sure that they are set as a sprite 2D and UI texture type here. If you don't do this, then your sprites are not going to function with the UI system and for animating and such. Anyway, we will need to create an animation for this sprite. As you can see here, there is a coin glare that goes over it, and we will have to animate our coins like that so that when they are dropped on the ground, they will be animated. So to do this, just select all your coins or all the sprites, drag them into your scene, and then if you have Unity 5 or higher, it will ask you to save your sprite animation somewhere. And I have inside my asset folder an animations folder. I'm going to go to that one, and then I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it other. And inside other, I am going to create a coin animation. When you have done that, you can go to your animations folder and go to the other and see that there is a coin and there is a controller. And this controller will have to be renamed into coin controller. And I have a folder for all my controllers down here called controller, so I'm going to take my coin controller and bring it down here. Okay. So if we look at the game right now, we have our frame 5, which is our coin, so just rename it to coin. And if we play the game, let's not do it maximized, then you'll see that there is this glare over it, the coin, but it looks a little weird that it keeps glaring all the time, and I would like it to just glare every few seconds. Maybe it just lays there, and then after 5 seconds or something it just glares a little. So to do this, we will have to go to the window and find the animator, and in here, if you have selected your coin, you'll see that there is a coin animation here, and this is the only animation that's being played all the time, as you can see here on the coin. So we will have to create an empty animation and then transition to that empty animation so that it stops from glaring. So first of all, right click, not create state machine, but we need to right click, create state and call it empty, and call the state, rename it to maybe idle. It's called coin idle. So idle for the coin is simply when it's not glaring. When you've done that, you can create a transition from the coin to coin idle, and from coin idle back to the coin here. So when we've done that, we need to make sure that it has an exit time, the animation from coin to coin idle, but you can simply remove the exit time and set this one to 0 and remove the fixed duration, so it just switches from the normal coin to the coin idle right away. Besides that, we'll have to make a transition from coin idle down to coin. So remove the exit time here because we'll need to trigger coin idle so that it goes to coin. Remove fixed duration and set transition duration to 0. Now we'll have to make a parameter that makes our coin trigger, that triggers our coin so it goes into the glare animation. So click on the plus. Nope, not a layer, sorry. Click on parameters first. Click on the plus and select a trigger and call it glare. So this is our glare trigger. Select the transition from coin idle to coin and click on the little plus here and then make sure that glare is selected. You can't select anything else if you don't have any other triggers. Okay, so if we go back to the scene now and look at the game, you'll see that it keeps looping here a few times, or it just stops in the end here. And we will actually have to go to our animations, click on other, select the coin and remove the loop time here. So it stops looping, so it only runs once at least. So let's try one more time. It should still do the same. And as you can see, it ends with this glare here in the bottom. The coin has a sprite where there's no glare on it, and we'll have to select that sprite instead of frame 5 here. So if you select your coin and go to coin sprites, and you take frame 1 and replace it with the normal coin sprite here, so it uses frame 1 as the default sprite instead of 5, then you'll see that it glares once and then it stops glaring here. It looks way better now because it goes down and up and then it just stops. So now we've created our animation, but we'll have to re-trigger the animation after a while. So we go into our animator, click on our coin idle and add behavior, and we can call this glare behavior. And when you've done that, you'll need to find the glare behavior here, and I'm going to move it into my animation behaviors folder. And in here we'll have to double click on glare behavior to open it up. Okay, so we'll have to make two things here. We'll have to make a private float called glare time, and private float called elapsed. Okay. Inside our update, we'll have to make sure that we trigger the glare trigger when glare time has passed. So we can see glare time is 5. So now it will be in idle for 5 seconds, and when the 5 seconds has passed, it will glare one time, and then it'll go back to idle for 5 seconds after that. So in our state update, we'll have to say elapsed plus equals time dot delta time. So this line of code will increase our elapsed time every time update runs, and time dot delta time is the time passed since last time update runs. So this is basically a counter, a stopwatch kind of, right? So elapsed will be increased from 0 seconds to 1 second to 2 seconds and so on. So if our elapsed time, if its elapsed time is higher or equal to our glare time, so if our elapsed time surpasses 5 seconds, then we're done idling and then we need to glare. So we need to say animator dot set trigger glare. And remember, the reason that we're writing glare here is because inside Unity we have a trigger called glare, which we set on the transition between idle and coin, and on idle we have this behavior. So at some point the time passes and we trigger glare, so it jumps down here to coin. Yes. So let's try to save this and see what happens. We know we need to do one more thing, but let's just see how it looks now. As you can see, we try, play the game, and it just glared once here, as you can see, and it did it again and again and again and again, as you can see. So now it keeps glaring after it triggered once, and that's because we're never resetting our variables, and we're never making sure that we only glare once every 5 seconds. So to fix this, we will have to jump back into the glare behavior and then uncomment it so that we can use it, this onState enter, because onState enter is called right when you enter the state. And here we'll have to reset our elapsed time here, because if elapsed time doesn't get reset, well, then it's always above the glare time here, so it will keep triggering it all the time. So we can basically say elapsed, I can't spell, elapsed equals 0. Here we go. There we go. So now we are setting our elapsed time to 0. So if we save this and jump back into the game and try one more time, then it shouldn't keep glaring. It should only glare once here. Let's see what happens. If we take the scene and put it up here, jumps to the coin, glares once, jumps back up here, glares once. So now you can see it only has one glare. So this has nothing to do with the actual mechanic in the game, but it just looks better when a coin is placed on the ground, that it has this little glare sometimes. So maybe you wouldn't notice it unless it just glares or something. Let's say you place a coin somewhere in your game and then it has this little glare here so that it's easier to see it. Okay, so that was how we create the base of the coin. Now we will need to place it somewhere so that our player can pick it up, and we will need to add the functionality to the player so that he can actually collide with it. So first of all, let's try to take the coin up here to the player. And right now it's way too big. It's basically larger than the player, and we'll need to scale it down. So select the tool to the far right, grab the corner of the sprite and hold shift down, and then just scale it down so it has like a decent size here. There. I think that's an okay size for a coin here. Maybe a little larger there. So first of all, right now our coin is simply placed in the air and it just keeps staying there in the air. But we would like to have physics on it so that it can fall to the ground or fall off a platform and such. So we'll have to click on the coin, click add component, and write rigid, and then find a rigid body 2D. And if you play it right now, the coin will simply just fall to the ground and through the ground. So we'll also need to add some collision to the coin, and basically we can click add component and write collider. Then you'll see that there are different kinds of colliders. We could put a box collider on it, but then it's squared and we would like our coin to roll maybe when it hits the ground. So to make it more realistic, so to say, we can click on the circle collider here. So now our coin has a circle collider on it. I'm simply going to remove my background here so that I can see what's happening. Click my coin, and then you can see the circle collider encapsulates the coin pretty decently, and that's fine how it is now. So this means when I start the game now and play the game, the coin will fall and land here, but it could also be rolling or something if it landed correctly, I think. There we go. As you can see here now, it rolls if it hits an edge here. And there we go. But right now our player can't pick them up. So we will have to add some scripting to the player so that he can pick up the coins. So let's try to go to the scripts here, well, there, and open the player script. So the player doesn't have any collision code in it, but it has some collision code up in our character. Where is it there? So you can see on the character script we have an onTrigger enter 2D, but the coin is not a trigger and the player is not a trigger, so we can't use this onTrigger enter 2D. We'll have to use an onCollision enter 2D instead, because if we try to use a trigger collider, well, then the coin will fall through the ground. As you can see, if I select my coin, and when I play the game now, as you saw before, it just lands on the ground. But if I would make it into a trigger, which it needs to be able to trigger the onTrigger enter function, well, then it will simply fall through the ground here, as you can see. So we can't make it into a trigger. So instead, we will have to go to our player and we will have to write another function called private void onCollision enter 2D, and it needs to take a collider as parameter, collider 2D, and called other. And here it's very important that you write the code correct, the name correct, else it's not going to work. So that's on collision enter 2D, which works when two colliders hit each other, which are not triggers. So I can say if other.tag equals coin. So if I collide with a coin, well, then I'm going to destroy other.gameObject here. And I actually made a mistake here. On collision enter doesn't take a collider as parameter, it actually takes a collision, because on trigger enter 2D takes a collider, but the on collision enter takes a collision 2D. And then it's going to complain here and say that, well, there's no tag on other because it's a collision, so we have to write other.gameObject.tag to access it. Okay, so now we have added the collision code. If we go back here and select our coin, we'll have to go to tag, add tag, click the plus and write coin, select the coin and go to tags and tag it as a coin. Make sure that your coin is tagged, else it's not going to work. So let's see if this works. I can't remember if I saved or I said I saved or what I did. Let's try again, save. And let's play the game again. So if our player enters the coin, it picks it up. So now our player can pick up the coin, or basically just destroys it when it hits it. But that's basically what we want to do actually. We're just going to add some points to the player whenever he hits it. The next thing we'll have to do is to set up the UI. So click on your create button, select UI and select an image. And if you already have a canvas in your scene, it will place the image under the old canvas. And if you have a new you don't have a canvas, well, then it's going to create a canvas and place the image under that. Right now I think my image went under my buttons panel. I just want to have it on top here. And then I'm going to take this image here and delete the component called image. So I'm simply going to have this as a parent, as a placeholder. So I just removed the image here and I'm going to rename this to coin UI. And then I'm going to take this one and place it in the top left corner. And then I'm going to take the alignment here on the coin UI and select the top left corner as well. Okay, so now we'll have to add the coin, and we will also have to add the text to this coin UI. So right click on the coin UI, select UI and select image. And then we'll have to open up this image here, and as a source image we'll have to find the coin. I think they're called frame, and I'm simply going to select frame 1 here. The next thing I'm going to do is to right click on the UI and select UI again and click text, and then I'm going to rename this to coin txt, coin text. So this is going to be the text beside the coins that reads whatever that's written, whatever how many coins we have. Okay, right now it's not very nicely placed, so we'll fix that in a second. First of all, the color of the text is going to be white for me. You can also change it to something else. And then I'm going to use another font here. If I select font, I'm going to use that one called Carter 1, and that's a font we implemented when we were implementing the health bars here. So if you don't have the font here, you can simply go back to the previous tutorial and find the link in the description, or you can simply use the Arial font as well if you want to. So now we have the text here, and I would like it to be a little larger, let's say 40. I know that's a little too large. I'll see what I wrote in my notes here for the good text. Yeah, that's 40, that's fine then. And then it needs to be in the center here, right next to the coin. So now it's placed next to the coin, but we would like them to be grouped. So you can right click on, or you can just click on the coin UI, click on add component and right group. And then there's something called grid layout group. Select that one. And then we'll have to constraint and say fixed column count and set it to 2. And then we can set our cell size to, let's say 80 and 80 maybe. I don't know if that's a little too large. Let's say 70 and 70. And then we can open the padding here and say we need some top padding. Let's say we need 10 top, so it moves from the top a little down here. And in the left side we also want 10, so it doesn't stand right up against the edge here. And spacing, I would like 5 spacing here between the coin and the text. Okay, so if we select the text again, then we can make sure that it overflows horizontal, so no matter how much text you write, it's going to overflow and be written. So if you have, like, say 1,000, 10,000 coins, it will still be written there. It wouldn't be cut off, as you can see. Besides that, let's just write 0. We can also add some effects to the text. Let's try to click add component and write outline, and then give it an outline so there's a black line around it. And this is actually way easier to see if we add the background again. You'll see it's very hard to see the amount of coins here. So if you select the coin text and put the outline on, you'll see it's way easier to see it. And you can also add a shadow if you want to. Shadow, there we go. So now it should be easier to read this and see the text up here. As you can see, the coin here doesn't have any shadow or anything on it. If you want to, you can also select the image here, which will be named coin image. And you can click add component and put a shadow on it. And you can add component, put an outline on it if you want to. It's basically up to you what you want. As you can see here now, there's also like a line around the coin. I don't know what looks best. Let's try to remove the outline. Maybe this looks better. Yeah, I guess this looks a little better. And the same goes for the health bar here. You can also put shadow and everything on it if you want to. So now we have the UI text here, but when I pick up a coin, it doesn't count up here yet. So we'll need to add some functionality that counts up the coins. So to do this, I will add a new script to the game. I would like to create a game manager which handles all the UI, so that any object in the game basically can ask the game manager, well, can you give me a coin, or can you give me a point or something, right? So the game manager has references to all UI elements, and when we do this, we won't need to make a reference to all the UI elements in every single enemy and in the player, because they can just ask the game manager for the UI element instead of having their own reference to it. So we can go to script folder, right click, create C# script, and write game manager. And when you've done that, you can double click on the script to open it. In the beginning of the series, we made our player into a singleton, and we're going to do the same thing for our game manager, so that we can reach it everywhere, and that's way easier for our enemies and players to reach it. So make a private static game manager called instance, and then we'll have to make a property like so. You can either do this by clicking Ctrl+RE, right clicking and going to quick actions, and then refactor and encapsulate field if you want to. We will have to remove the set part because we wouldn't be able to set it, and we have to say if our instance equals null. So I'm going over this a little quick, but it's the same as we already did earlier with our player. Then our instance is equal to find object of type game manager, and then we return the instance. So now our game manager is a singleton, so that we can reach it everywhere. The next thing we need is a prefab, because every single enemy, when it dies, it needs a prefab so that it can spawn a coin. And instead of, if we have like 100 enemies, instead of making sure that every single enemy has a coin prefab, well, then we just add it to the game manager so that the enemy can ask the game manager for a coin. So we make a private game object called coin prefab, and then we serialize this field here, serialize field, and then we right click on it, quick actions, encapsulate field, and then remove the set part, So we only have a get return coin prefab here. If you don't have Visual Studio and you can't get quick actions, then simply write this code here. It does exactly the same thing. It's just easier to do the quick actions than writing it yourself. The next thing we need to do is to make a private text field. And right now, because I just created this script, I'm not able to access the text. So again, we can click on the quick action and using Unity engine.ui, and then it puts up Unity engine.ui up here in the top because we can use it now. If you can't do quick action, then you can simply also write this line of code up here by yourself. And we're going to write coin text, and we are going to serialize that field so we can see it in the inspector as well. Yeah, we also need to be able to access this coin text from other scripts so that the player can increase the coin text. So we need to make encapsulate field in this one as well, and remove the we actually need the set part because we need to set it from the other script actually. So we need to keep the get and the set part. Or actually, sorry, I just got another idea. Basically, we don't need to access the text from outside. We actually just need to have the amount of coins and increase that. So we can make a private integer called collected. I can't spell it now apparently. Collected coins. There we go. So we can create this variable called collected coins and encapsulate it so that we have it like so. And we will need get and set for this. So we will just make sure that our player increases the amount of collected coins, and then the text just needs to reflect the amount of collected coins here. So let's try to go to our player, and down here before we destroy the other game object, we'll simply have to go game manager dot instance dot collected coins plus plus. So every time we have hit a coin, we increase the amount of collected coins here. So if we go back to the script, we can create a new object by clicking create, create empty, rename it to game manager, and take the game manager script and put it onto this. And that didn't happen apparently. There we go. Then you see it asks for a coin prefab. Right now we don't have a coin prefab, so we will have to create one. So go to the prefab folder and find your coin and drag it into the prefab folder, and then we have our coin prefab right here. Just rename it to coin prefab to make it easier. And then we go to our game manager and we take the coin prefab and drag it onto the empty spot. And then we also need to access the coin text, and the coin text is the text that is right here that will be reflecting the amount of coins you collected. So select let's see here the canvas and find the coin text, and then drag it onto the coin text here on the game manager. So now the game manager has a reference to let's see here, where is it? There. Has a reference to the coin prefab so that we can instantiate it, and it has a reference to the coin text so we can increase the coin text. So if we save this and run the game right now, nothing is happening to that text here. As you can see here, nothing happens up here. So we will have to increase the text, or increase the amount of coins in the text. So basically when we collect the coin here, we'll simply say coin text dot text equals equals value to string. So basically when we say in our player, when we say game manager dot instance collected coins plus plus, it will take 0 and plus with 1. So inside our game manager, the value here is equal to 1. So we set the coins text equals to 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how many coins you've collected, of course. And then we set the value of collected coins. So let's see here. If we run the game again and I pick up this coin, then you'll see that we have collected 1 coin now. So now the UI here works. The next thing we'll have to do is to make sure that our enemy drops a coin when she dies. And in that matter, I would also like to show you one little bug there. It's not a bug, but it's executing the death code a little too many times. And I figured that out when I want to spawn coins. When the enemy died, it actually spawned 6 coins instead of 1. So we'll see what happens here. If we find our enemy script, and then we'll need to find the death function here, because this function here is triggered when our enemy despawns. Basically, the most optimal way of doing it, I think, is to make sure that just when the enemy dies, the coin spawns. If we add the code here, it will not spawn until the enemy respawns. So we can try to do it both places so you can see where you want to put your code and use both ways actually. So let's see here. Inside the enemy, we will simply have to say game manager inside the enemy death.instance dot what's it called, coin prefab. So here you can see we can access the coin prefab from our enemy. So we'll have to say instantiate. Let's see here, instantiate, and we need to give it the prefab here. There we go. Then we need to give it a position. Basically, we would like to spawn it a little above the enemy, so we need to say new vector free transform.position.x, comma transform.position.y plus 2 or something. And then we need to give it a rotation. We don't need to rotate it, so that's just a quaternion dot identity to keep the same rotation here. So this line of code actually spawns a coin when the enemy respawns. Let's try to play this so you can see what happens actually. So if we try to kill our enemy here, pick up 1 coin here, and we try to kill her. Bam, she dies. So let's see what happens when she respawns. Boom, and then there spawns like a lot of coins here I can collect. And as you can see, we only wrote the code once, and that's because our respawn code is executed too many times. So that's actually a bug, and we should not do that. So let's see, death. If I right click on death and find all references and click on this here, you'll see that inside our death behavior script, we are executing this code when death timer is larger than respawn time. And basically when our death timer is larger than respawn time, well, then it will respawn. But we never reset our death timer. And if we don't do that, well, then it's going to execute this a few times more before it actually managed to respawn and jump out of this code here. So we simply need to say death timer equals 0 and then save it. So now when we jump in here, it calls the death function in our enemy. Well, then we set our death timer to 0, so it won't jump into this if statement a few more times before it respawns. Before, we never reset it, so it called this death function a lot of times before. As you can see, it spawned a lot of coins. So try to save this and reopen Unity, and let's see here what happens when we kill our enemy here. I can manage to kill her before she hits me. There we go. And now it should only spawn 1 coin. And now it spawned on me, so I picked up 1. Now I have 2. But as you can see, it only spawned 1. One problem here is that we don't want to wait until the enemy spawns for dropping a coin. Basically, we want the coin to drop right away when the enemy dies. Right here, we want it to drop. So we need to move this line of code here inside the enemy. This line 253 for me. We need to cut it, and then we need to paste it in another place. We need to scroll a little up, and then we need to find somewhere where we're dying. Let's see where we're dying. Change state, no. Look at target. Update, nope. Let's see, is that there? So there is some is dead here, but that's not where we want to go. I think there should be a take it damage function somewhere. Maybe it's in the bottom here. change direction, let's see, take damage, there we go. So the take damage function, at some point we're checking, well, if I'm not dead, we're going to take damage, else if I am dead, then I'm going to set the trigger die, and so on. So right here, inside the take damage function on the enemy, we'll have to place this line of code that instantiates the coin prefab in the game. So before we actually die, we are actually dead here, right? Because we have 0 health. We die, we spawn the coin, and then we set the death trigger, the die trigger here. So if we save this and jump back into Unity, and we kill our enemy, you'll see that the coin will spawn. There we go. But as you can see, it stands in the air, and the reason that it lands in the air is because the coin is actually colliding with our enemy, and now she's kicking it towards me like a football here. And we're not interested in that. We would like our coins to ignore the collision with our enemy. So to fix this, we jump back into the game, into Visual Studio, and we need to write in front of our instantiate, we need a reference to our coin we just instantiated. So I have to write game object coin equals instantiate, and here it returns an object, and we need to cast it to a game object. So we just write game object here, and then we say physics 2d.ignore collision, or we want to ignore the collision between our coin dot get component collider 2d, so the collider on our coin, and get component collider 2d on our enemy. So get component simply gets the component on the script we are on, and this script is attached to our enemy, so it just takes the collider. So this line of code here will make sure that the collision between our coin and our enemy is ignored, so that the coin will not land on top of the enemy's head. Let's try one more time here. Pick up this coin, and then we try to kill her. She dies, and the coin spawns and falls down here, and I can pick it up, and she can't kick it around like a football anymore. I can just test it again, so you can see that she can't kick it anymore. Kills her. Let's see, when she spawns, starts to run towards me. As you can see, she just passes through it here, basically, and I can still pick them up. And that's how you can add collectibles to the game. Before I end this video, I would like to say thanks to everyone that has come up with some suggestions for this tutorial, and please don't stop doing that. Keep them coming, because I will implement them at some point when I have some time. I've just been a little busy lately, so just wait. I will implement the different things like sound, a menu, ending the game, and a limited amount of throwing knives, for example, and all those things that you guys are suggesting. So please keep coming with the suggestions, and I will add them. Also, don't forget to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done already. It helps me out a lot. Also, if you like my videos, then please share them everywhere you can, so that I get more views. That would be very awesome. Remember that InScope Studios is a community founder page, so all your support is very important to me. You can support me in different ways. You can either go to my Patreon page, which is on top of the screen right here, where you can actually support me and get all the projects that I've ever made, which means all assets and everything that I'm using in all my tutorials. Also, you can support me by getting one of the single projects by clicking the link in the bottom of the screen, and lots of you guys are doing these things, so it's awesome, and it makes it easier for me to make better tutorials with more sprites and more customized sprites and everything. So thank you very much for that.